This is a rumor. It's a possible spoiler, but this is a rumor. And it's that a trailer that we can expect a glimpse of how powerful Luke Skywalker is. The real rumor is that Luke Skywalker will be ridiculously powerful in Episode 9. And so this is from Cinema Blend. But a rumor from a couple of months back posted that Luke is going to be very powerful. In fact, the rumor is that he will showcase his strength by bringing down a Star Destroyer in Episode 9. So, Jesse, we'll start with you on this one. I remember watching, or rather, I remember getting prepared for The Last Jedi, and one of the rumors was the strength of Luke. And I think the same phrase was used. Luke is going to bring down a Star Destroyer. And it kind of made us think of like the Force Unleashed video games.
Yeah, definitely that's the first thing that comes to mind because I'm like, man, that was actually a difficult task in the game.
But let's talk about this. I mean, he has shown great strength already. The Last Jedi was no sign of weakness, being able to show an image of himself across the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, that's still speculation. Who's to say he just didn't teleport? I know that might sound silly, but I mean, like, we're seeing a lot of new things with the Force and recent things, outside of the movies. I mean, Rebels, we saw some new things. With Luke, though, I mean, he's supposed to be, so powerful. I mean, that's what that buildup is. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be really cool to see him even as a Force ghost, if that's what it is. It's like, hey, check this out, boom. Mm-hmm. Somehow, though, I'm still clinging on that he comes back somehow. Like, I kind of feel like I'm not sure. Again, it all depends on how it's written. It has to be written good and everything.
Written well. It should also be written well. Grammatically well as well.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's what I want as a fan, because I enjoyed Cranky Luke, but I don't feel like, I just don't feel like that was, a good way for him to go out. I wanted to see him actually in a lightsaber, fight, not just dodging everything.
Well, but that's the thing, though, is I catch myself saying this is kind of what I had hoped to see in The Last Jedi, and I did get that, but it's from a certain point of view. Like that whole Star Wars cliche is like we did see him come out and redeem himself. He was clean shaven. He faced off the First Order. Uh-huh. He ignited the blue, which I was really happy about. And, he went out in an honorable way. But we got to remember, too, Last Jedi is only like, a couple of days? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're only seeing Crank Luke for a couple of days. So I do hope that we get a chance to explore Luke not so cranky. But, David, I need to know from you, though, how can you break down how you think Luke will or will not showcase his strength?
I'm convinced that Luke is gone. I think that was a very fitting end for him, so I'm expecting him to come back as a Force ghost. But Force ghosts, as kind of I'd gathered from this podcast and the research I've done in talking with you folks, is that kind of started with Qui-Gon Jinn being able to talk from beyond, and then, Yoda and Obi-Wan learned from that. So I would love for him to come back as the Force ghost and be able to do some really powerful stuff. And we can see that this has already happened when Yoda burnt the tree. So if Yoda can burn a tree, what can Luke do, having spent the majority of his life learning the ways of the Force and potentially how to do some really badass stuff?
I'm curious to know, because of how the Force Ghost can now interact with the real world that we saw, what you just explained. There are rumors out there that Luke could possibly be coming. He has found a way to bridge himself, and he can come back into the physical being.
Which would be neat, too. We saw that in Darth Vader's comic last week with Momin.
He did say, "I'll see you around, kid," kind of thing. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe he knew what he was doing, and I mean, he obviously did know what he was doing.
So you're telling me, because it almost comes into play, it almost comes to the point of resurrection. Would you be okay with resurrection in Star Wars Episode 9 if it allowed Luke to come back? Or do you feel that is a cop-out for the story?
It's interesting. There's been a lot of comparisons between, I don't want to go down the whole religion thing, but I mean, between common core, like Christian beliefs and everything, the Messiah, the chosen one.
Yeah, Anakin.
Right. And everything, that resurrection and everything. So, I mean, it's possible. It's a long stretch, but I mean, there's always been kind of that interlink there. People have noticed.
Would resurrection make you happier, or would the world between worlds, that concept from Star Wars Rebels of time travel?
No.
Which would better fit in this Star Wars world?
I think the only way I could be satisfied with Luke coming back alive is if it were something like Kylo Ren goes to Darth Vader's fortress and uses that to open the gap in the Force, like Vader did in the recent, or Momin did in the recent comic, to bring back his body. Maybe Kylo's trying to bring back Snoke, and out walks Luke Skywalker. That's a stretch for me, but I think that'd be the only way I'd be possible with a resurrection type thing, and a good way to tie the comics back in with the movies.
Well, there was that little tidbit with Maz about how getting that lightsaber was a bit of a story. So I mean, there's always been that joke, when Rey shows up, here's your lightsaber. There was a hand with it. Maybe they cloned him a new body or something, and it's been sitting in a back to tank for a couple of
Getting
years.
into some EU territory right there with Luke. Little insight, if you didn't know, in the EU they clone Luke, and it's like Luuuke. And it's just a mess. It's just a whole tear. What do you think, though? Do you want Luke to come back to life in Episode 9? That would be crazy. Do you think that we'll see him show power enough to bring down a Star Destroyer? That would be insane. Do you think this is all garbage? It's possible. Let us know down in the comments below.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.